What's up, everybody? Screech here with another one, and this one's from TheDrive. It's called "Why Are America's Streetlights Turning Purple?" I'm looking at this one for two reasons. One, purple's my favorite color, if you couldn't guess. And two, I've seen some purple streetlights, and I thought I was just crazy. I don't know. I thought maybe we were transitioning from like the yellow thing to the white thing. Like, you know how like headlights did that for a while? So I really don't know what to expect from this, but I am super curious to see how this video goes.
If you've walked around your neighborhood at night lately, taking out the trash, walking the dogs, there's a chance you've seen a streetlight that looks like this. In a sea of normal streetlights, there's one or two or sometimes even a whole block of them that are purple.
Yeah, but
it's kind of hard to miss, right? And the stranger thing is, it's been happening across America for years at this point. Since at least 2021, hundreds of local news stories, tens of thousands of TikToks and Reddit threads and whatever you call X posts now have reported the phenomenon. And the purple lights just keep appearing all over the place, seemingly at random. So what's really going on here? Is purple light easier on the eyes at night?
See, that was my thought, was like maybe purple was easier, blue is harsh, and it helps with like seeing at night. Because like there becomes a point for me when I drive, it's why I don't drive at night, where if there's too many lights and they're too bright, I can't see the road. Like, and that's a safety issue for me. That's why I personally don't drive at night unless I'm driving in certain areas where I know there's not going to be a lot of traffic. Or I'm driving like between the hours of like 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Like, it doesn't really matter, but like driving after 10 p.m. at night because there's typically nobody on the road.
For pedestrian safety? Aliens? Actually, it's one big up, and it comes down to how LEDs work, bad quality control, and good old-fashioned government contracting.
Okay.
So I'm going to walk you through why America's roads are turning purple and how we can't seem to stop it.
I think it's a good thing. I really do.
Over the past few decades, we've seen a shift in how we produce light. In the home, we went from incandescent bulbs to fluorescent to LED, and it's similar with streetlights. In the 20th century, every streetlight was a sodium vapor lamp. This used a mixture of neon, argon, and metallic sodium to produce yellow light.
Yeah, yellow lights are soft. They're not as harsh. They do produce light. It's when we went to them white, bright ones where like I started having issues. And like I said, this really didn't start until like I started driving in 2010. Yeah, 2010. And it didn't really become a problem for me driving until like 2012. And then there's the whole issue of if it rains, I can't see the road because like they use white and the way they make the roads, like you just can't see the lines. So it's like, free for all. Bumper cars.
As the 1930s, sodium vapor lamps were used because the yellow light was able to cut through fog best. This idea of yellow light cutting through fog is something we still
I want to back it up, but like I do think the yellow light looks better. I think the yellow light looks better. You'll see more wildlife with the white, I will admit, which depending on where you're at, like I live in a heavily wooded area. So like hogs, deer, owls, bears, because I have bears. Like you could argue if it's a super active area, the white would be better, but I think we should go back to yellows.
To cut through fog best. This idea of yellow light cutting through fog is something we still see today in off-roaders and wannabe toge runners. The longer wavelength means that yellow light doesn't reflect back off water droplets in the air as easily. The longest wavelength would be red, which is one of the reasons we use red lenses for brake lights. But for street lights, it's not the light itself that we want to see. It's what the light is illuminating. And for that to work, our brains need to fully understand what we're seeing, and that requires full spectrum light, like we get from the sun. So over time, manufacturers of streetlights figured out how to increase the pressure in sodium vapor lights to create more full spectrum light.
Nope.
You're all familiar with the rainbow, right?
Yep.
Like every pandering corporate logo in June? Well, a full spectrum light is producing all of the colors of the rainbow, which, when combined, appear white. Higher pressure sodium vapor lamps were used in sports stadiums and large event areas. And if you were around in the 90s, you would have literally seen the quality change between low pressure and high pressure lights. The broader and more even the light spectrum, the more it resembles the light from the sun, which means it makes more sense to our brains, but also requires more power.
Oh, that is gorgeous. That is gorgeous. I have an issue with heights, but I would love to just sit up on one of those skyscraper roofs and just watch. I love the lights. It's just, oh, and then the blue over there. Like, I'm getting lost in the sauce. I'm sorry, but that's interesting. That I mean, it does make sense that it requires more power. I didn't know about the change in pressure and stuff. Like, I don't know how that works. Like, is it like the pressure in the area, or is it the pressure from the light itself? I don't know. I don't know.
Older neighborhoods might have had lower pressure sodium vapor lights, while new construction would have had the higher pressure white lights. The only problem with sodium vapor lamps is that they're relatively inefficient. For the amount of light they create, they also create a ton of heat.
Which is good at certain times of the year, or if you want to be someplace. I hated playing in my high school. I was part of the marching band, so we did the football games, and the lights there were just KQ in our uniforms.
When the goal is to create light, heat is basically wasted energy. They also scatter light in all directions rather than focus light where we need it.
You need it everywhere. Everywhere.
LEDs are much more efficient when it comes to creating light. You might have experienced this at home with incandescent bulbs versus newer LEDs. Back in the day, you couldn't unscrew a bulb that was on because it would be way too hot.
Sounds like a skill issue. Get better.
With almost all lights being LED, you could just use your mouth. But really, don't.
No. Bugs go there. Bad idea. Bad Mr. Drive person. Thing. Whatever you want to be called.
Do that for a number of reasons. Compared to incandescent bulbs, LEDs were nearly 10 times more efficient, with 90% of the wattage going to making light. Compared to sodium vapor, however, the actual amount of light per watt is not as big of a jump, but things like directionality and bulb lifespan, that's important later, were enough for nearly every city to start changing their streetlights out for LEDs. When this was happening, you could literally see the change. Streets that had once appeared orange or yellow were now bright white. Fun fact, this change was actually a real issue for the film industry. There was concern that period pieces in big cities would suddenly become much more expensive to shoot because the white lights made everything look too modern. And then making them all yellow again on set or in the edit booth would cost a lot.
Go back to the blue.
Tricky film shoots are a pretty specific problem to have with changing how streets are lit at night. But I bet if you asked anyone you know what they think about LED streetlights, and I mean the functional, white, non-purple ones, and they'll say they hate them. The light is harsh, it's cold, and way too bright. And people feel that way not just because no one likes change, but because those lights aren't actually white. They produce blue light. Like your phone or computer. You know, the things doctors say we're not supposed to look at before bedtime because it screws.
Then they're not purple. They're blue lights. So correct yourself, please. Because, like, I agree. The blue ones suck, and I've seen those, but the purple ones are awesome. They're bright enough to, like, illuminate a lot of stuff. They focus out like you want, but it's also not harsh on the eyes, and you can actually drive through them. So, like, that to me is the perfect place. And sorry about moving the thing. I was doing a live edit. It was bugging me.
Up our sleep. This isn't necessarily a bad thing for streetlights though. Blue light, or white light that skews blue in color temperature, boosts alertness and helps memory and brain function.
No, it doesn't. It puts me to goddamn sleep, and that's another reason why I can't drive for long periods at night.
Things you probably need while driving at night. But it's also that little truth that brings us to why everything is turning purple. So white LEDs technically don't exist. For an LED...
Is this like pink doesn't exist? Is that where you're about to go with this shit? Because, like, it's one thing to say pink doesn't exist. That actually made sense in that video, which I might cover that video. But to say white doesn't exist, when you just said white is all the colors combined, which I could have swore that's what black was. and white was an absence of those colors. So now I'm confusing myself. And you've hurt my brain, sir. I'm not happy about this. You better fix it.
To make white light, it's a very different process than high-pressure sodium vapor or the sun. Remember the rainbow I mentioned earlier? The one from the Dark Side of the Moon cover? Well, that's the full visible light spectrum. The sun produces radiation at every wavelength in that spectrum, and a bunch of other wavelengths, including ultraviolet, but it's not producing them equally. This is called spectral distribution, and it describes the average skew of how light appears. If you're into photography, or just really into your light bulbs, you've seen this measured in Kelvin. Sunlight is about 5,600 degrees Kelvin. Incandescent bulbs are about 3,200 Kelvin. This is why the color seems warmer, because the color temperature is colder. That's backwards and confusing, but
I was going to say, I'm glad he addressed that, because like that did make zero sense. That's like the left side of the brain controlling the right side of the body. That makes no sense. I know that's how it works, but it makes no sense. No sense.
let's not get into that. The point is that both the sun and incandescent bulbs were full spectrum sources with different average color temperatures. The trouble is, individual LEDs don't produce the full spectrum. They produce mainly one color. You got red, green, or blue. RGB.
Yep.
There are fringe exceptions, but
Which pisses me off, because the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. Yet everything else is RGB. So how the hell does that make sense, sir? Could you explain that one to me? Could you explain that one to me?
as far as the materials available for something as mass-produced as streetlights, we've got these three to work with. To achieve white light in a monitor or phone, each pixel on your screen is producing equal amounts of red, green, and blue. To achieve white light in streetlights, manufacturers use blue LEDs in a process called phosphor conversion. In simplest terms, the blue LED shines through a laminated yellowish filter made of phosphor and silicone that just turns it into white light. White light that is still a little too blue for comfort. And guess what?
So did he just say it's like, if you've ever done concert work, you know, the spotlights and stuff like that, it's basically a gel that you put in front of the light? Is that what he said? That's what they do?
Number of manufacturers did a pretty crappy job making that filter layer, including American Electric Lighting and Acuity Brand Lighting, which together are responsible.
Acuity Brands currently owns American Electric Lighting. Okay, good to know. That would explain why both of them screwed up. But why didn't they use General Electrics? They're generally electric.
For tens of thousands of the defective lamps across multiple states. And over time, the filter either delaminated, developed cracks, or just completely fell off the LED module. If it fails
That's not exclusive to just them. That's a lot of things, like in the music industry, the film industry, the theater was the one I was looking for when I said all those. I noticed it when we had, because our band director for our concerts during concert season, obviously, he bought some lights with some gels and stuff like that, and they had the same issues.
completely, you end up with a pure blue streetlight. If it sort of stays in place, the blue light source interacts with the remaining pieces of the yellow filter and puts off purple light. That's why you see some people.
Whoa. No. Back the up. Did he just say blue and yellow make purple? Did he really just say blue and yellow make purple? Because I could have swore red and blue make it the purple. Next, this person's going to tell me 2 + 2 actually equals 5. We got to back up.
Sort of stays in place, the blue light source interacts with the remaining pieces of the yellow filter and puts off purple light.
That is not
That's
how
why
colors
you see
work.
some people say they're turning purple and others say it's blue. It's both. And either way, it's a literal glowing reminder of the failures of your local municipality. But why did we only start to see this in 2021? Well, because the 2010s saw the first huge push by federal and local governments to swap out the old sodium lights for new eco-friendly LEDs. It turns out many millions of dollars were spent on straight-up defective streetlights. But hey, at least money was cheap back then. So that's your answer. LED streetlights are turning purple and blue because of a simple manufacturing defect that, through political and economic forces, eventually showed up in every single state in America. Not to mention a number of other countries. When we started seeing these purplish streetlights, many people speculated that they might be better for night visibility or pedestrian awareness. And sadly, that's not the case.
Night visibility, maybe, because like I said, I have a hard time seeing because the car headlights are too goddamn bright. The street lights are too goddamn bright. But now seeing pedestrians, no. Now, maybe the pedestrians being able to see, maybe you could argue that. I say just go back to yellows, figure that out, and we will be good.
Actual blue light doesn't give you any night vision advantage over warmer lights. In fact, it makes it harder to see details and transition from light to dark. But there are other colors that...
I mean, if it's brighter, that means your the dark part, the pupil, is dilating and stuff like that. So like, yeah, it'll constantly it'll be taking in more light. So I believe it dilates, and then when the light disappears, it dilates the other way because I believe it's goes both ways. I'm not a scientist or an optometrist, so don't quote me on that like definition. But that does make sense on it not having an advantage, it actually being a detriment.
To help with that, there's a small Dutch town that's known for its red lights. I'm not talking about Amsterdam. I'm talking about...
Yeah, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that.
This. You can see it. The town has adopted red streetlights to help its residents see at night, and not just its human residents. The region is home to the large populations of several rare bat species. If bluish streetlights help us see better at night because they mimic the sun, they also throw off the natural day cycles of bats, insects, and other animals. So the red LED streetlights provide illumination while reducing the bad effects on local wildlife. It also protects our night vision. If you've ever bought a camping headlamp or torch and wondered why it has a red setting, this is why. The longer wavelength of red light means that our eyes don't adjust as much going from light to dark. It's also the other reason brake lights are red, and that you've never been blinded by LED taillights.
So, like, again, I live in the middle of the woods, for lack of better terms. We use red lights out here because, one, the only thing it attracts is frogs. Bugs quit showing up, whether because the light's not there, like mosquitoes, because like mosquitoes are attracted to light for some reason. And then the frogs eat up what's left. So like the red lights out here actually do us a good bit when we're trying to enjoy the nighttime.
Problem with red streetlights is that we've already unanimously decided that a red light means stop. We are not ready for that level of change.
Blue means stop, green means go, or green means stop, since everybody doesn't know how to go at a fucking green light.
The lights in your neighborhood are red, purple, white, or yellow. The main thing is, at least they're there. Somehow, I live in one of the few neighborhoods in Los Angeles that doesn't have streetlights at all. Let me tell you, it gets really dark at night.
Yeah,
I'd take a purple one over nothing at least. To date, there haven't been any reported cases of crashes or other bad situations caused directly by the lights turning purple. But I don't think we can feel good about our city spending all of that cash on lights that lasted less than half a decade, even if the intention was good. I mean, sure, LED streetlights are brighter and more energy efficient. I just wish we spent a little more time finding suppliers who were just a bit more competent. So,
okay, is it a matter of they were incompetent or we didn't really have the tech to do that at the time? And I'm willing to lean on the side of that was a scale issue that we were not ready for. Like that's what I think that truly was, just based on the time, because LEDs, like, to my understanding, didn't really become like really readily available. Like they were expensive.
where does that leave us, other than paying for a metric ton of replacement lights? Well, the good news is, in just the last 5 years alone, LED technologies have advanced to the point where manufacturers can get pretty close to the warm glow of the old lights. In fact, you might have already noticed newer streetlights that are significantly easier on the eyes than the first round of LEDs were before they started failing. But for now, just keep an eye out for the purple ones and let your local government know that that is broken.
I still like it. I prefer the purple. I mean, go back to yellow. Go back to yellow. Go back to yellow. Yellow. We need yellow. But that was interesting. Didn't expect that to be as interesting as it is. Again, this is from TheDrive. You know, give them a like. You know, please go back. You know, but yeah. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you guys in another video later down the road. And with that, I will see y'all in the next one. So, bye bye.